properties in our area. It worked out okay, but it's tricky when you buy old ones. All right, so we'll get started here now. What is the best way to invest in rental properties? I'm Mark Ferguson with investformore.com. Many of you know that. All right. So what are we going to go over today? How to buy rental properties below market value. One of the most important things I have done in my investing career, whether it's flipping or rentals, is buying below market. And I'm going to talk about that a lot in this webinar. But anybody can go out and buy retail properties. There's no secrets to that. When you buy below market value, it has so many advantages. We're going to talk about how to finance rental properties. A lot of misconceptions out there about how to get loans, how easy or hard it is to finance rentals, how to figure out what a good rental property investment is. I'm going to talk about returns. What are the different things I look at when investing? And there are many other aspects about rentals. Property management, tax advantages. We'll touch on some of those. But this webinar is going to be at least 45 minutes long, maybe a little longer. And there's no way I can cover everything on rental properties. It'd just be impossible. So I really want to focus on the three main keys for now. And then maybe I'll have some other webinars that focus on management, some other aspects of rentals, and go into those into more detail. But I will have time to answer questions at the end. So if you have questions for me about the other aspects, I should be able to have time to answer those. All right. So if you stick with me for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to go into the details on what to look for in rentals, how to buy them, how to finance them. I will have questions for everyone at the end. And just to be totally upfront, yes, I will try to sell you something during this webinar. I have an investing program I created. I'm not going to, this won't be a huge sales pitch, believe me. If you know my blog, I'm not a big salesman, but I do love to help people. And I created this program to help people invest better. So, there's no hidden secrets. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Much of what I teach is on the blog, but for people who want more personal coaching, help to do things faster or avoid mistakes, I do offer this coaching program. So let's get on with the information. All right. So before we get into the details, I always like to cover just the benefits of rentals. So some of this might be review if you've seen my other properties, but we'll go through it pretty quick. Cash flow is the best way to retire early. I talk about this all the time, but I'm up to about $8,000 a month on my rental properties after all expenses are paid. So, that is pretty cool having that money come in every month without me really doing anything, because all my properties are managed by a property manager. And this profit is after I pay my property manager. Rental properties do appreciate. I'm going to talk a lot about investing for appreciation versus cash flow. But I've spent about $350,000 on my 16 rentals in the last 5 years. You don't have to spend that much money. Don't freak out when you see that number. There's many ways to buy with a lot less money. But that $350,000 has basically grown into $1.3 million in equity in 5 years. And that $1.3 million is after paying selling costs if I were to sell my houses. So I actually have more equity in my houses than that. A lot of that is because I bought below market value. Appreciation has been great here as well, but buying below market value is really attributed to much of that growth. And I'll talk about why. Amazing tax advantages. You can depreciate a rental property over 27 and a half years. And basically what that means is the IRS thinks that houses will fall apart and basically be worth nothing at some point. So you can depreciate the value of the structure over 27 and a half years and deduct that amount from the income on your taxes, which means you pay less taxes, even though you're not really losing money. It's not money coming out of your pocket. It's just the IRS feels that those properties are worth less and less and less over the course of years, even though in reality, properties don't really go down in value if they're maintained well. They will actually go up in value. So it's really cool how the IRS treats rental properties. Mortgage interest, almost all the expenses with rentals are either deductible or depreciable on your taxes. So you can really a great way to save money in your taxes. You can buy rental properties below market value. That can't be done in the stock market. You can buy stocks that are undervalued, but that's really the market's perception of what the value is. You're hoping that you know something that millions of other people don't know about those stocks and why the value's off. But with real estate, you know a house can be worth $100,000, but you can still buy it for $70,000 in some cases. And that's just an amazing advantage with real estate. And then leverage, real estate is obviously one of the easiest things to get a loan on. The more properties you buy with less money, if you're buying the right properties, will increase your returns, actually be safer a lot of times than paying cash. All right, so if rentals are so awesome, why doesn't everybody invest in them? It's a great question. And it's really some pretty simple answers. It's not easy to get great cash flow and buy below market value. It takes work, education, knowledge to be able to do this. You can't just hop on the MLS one day and buy 5 properties that will be awesome rentals. It takes patience. It takes knowing your market. It takes a lot of different skills to be able to invest in rentals the right way. And most people, they're not willing to take the time to learn, to educate themselves and figure out how to do it. A lot of people just want, get rich quick, something to happen overnight. They're not willing to take the time. If it were easy, we'd all be doing it. Everybody would buy rentals, and that would push, make it harder for the rest of us to get those great deals. So I'm glad it's harder because it makes the returns better for those of us that do invest, that do take the time to learn. And it's hard to save money. It's not always easy to get loans, and it takes time to build a team and analyze deals. A lot of people have problems saving money. And if you can't save any money at all, I'm not going to sit here and tell you can make millions of dollars in rental properties without any money, no credit, like some of these other guys will. I think if you have no money, you can't save money. There's other issues that you need to fix first before you go off buying a bunch of real estate. There's ways to make money in real estate as an agent flipping houses, but buying rental properties is not a magic fix to not being able to save money or have money. People are scared they'll lose money they work so hard to save. A lot of people are worried, they buy a rental, they'll have tenants who trash the house. Property values could go down, and that can happen, but there's many things you can do to negate those risks. Buying below market value obviously is one of them that will make you money as soon as you buy the house. Like I said, there is no get rich quick scheme with rental properties. It takes time. It takes knowledge to learn how to do this. All right. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Mark Ferguson. I own 16 rentals that I bought my first one in December 2010. I flipped over 100 houses. I don't know. I flipped over 100 houses a few years ago, so I don't know what I'm up to now. But I currently have actually 9 flips right now. I just sold one a couple days ago. So I had 10. I've got 9 right now. I'm selling 2 more flips this month, but then I actually have 4 more under contract closing next month that I'm buying. And that doesn't count the land I bought, which I don't know if that's really a flip or not. I don't count that. I run a real estate team of 10, including 6 agents. So I've been a licensed realtor since 2002. Worked with my dad in the beginning, ended up taking over his team, buying him out. Now I have my own team. We've got 6 agents, a couple assistants. That's how I am able to do so much and not work nonstop, is because I have this team that helps me. And then, of course, I created Invest for More in March 2013. So I'm coming up on 3 years having the blog. That seems kind of crazy. It doesn't feel that long. I think I'm over 450 articles now. So there's a ton of information. I write almost everything myself on the site. So if you see something that's an article posted on there, the only way I haven't written it is if it clearly states it's written by someone else. So that's all me. I don't have a ghostwriter. I don't have anybody else writing for me. You can tell by some of my typos that it's me doing it too. All right. So there's 3 main steps I want to talk about to getting a great rental property investment today. Buy for cash flow, not appreciation. Now, I'm not saying appreciation is bad, but you want to focus on cash flow. Buy below market value. Get great financing. This is my 14th rental property, I believe. I'd have to look it up, but this is the one duplex I own. There's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath up, and a 2-bedroom, 1 bath down. I bought this property for $120,000 last year. It's rented for $1,400 a month right now. But this is one property I actually might be selling and exchanging to buy more properties in Florida. And I'll talk about that, but like I said, our market's crazy here. So I may be selling some of my properties here in exchanging them, doing a 1031 exchange into new properties in Florida. And when you do that, and if you do it right, you don't have to pay any taxes on the profit you make, which is really awesome. All right. So what's the first step? Why cash flow is so awesome. So cash flow is basically passive income if you do it right, which I think we all should strive for. It's basically money coming into you without you doing any work. It's kind of like having, $2 million in a bank account that earns 10% interest and gives you $200,000 a year without doing any work. Something we should all strive for, but most of us don't have $2 million in a bank account, and it's very hard to get 10% interest on that money as well without risking a lot. So as little work as possible for the money that comes in every month. Like I said, I have property managers who manage my properties. I pay them 8% of the rent each month. They're actually on my team. So I've been able to train them and teach them how to do things. But I would not ever manage properties again myself just because of the time and some of the headaches they have. So for people who are thinking about self-managing, I think it's a great way to get started, to learn the business. But once you reach a certain amount of properties, consider hiring a property manager, because your time is probably worth more than dealing with tenants, trying to collect rent. It can be a big hassle. And if you aren't tough, if you're soft on your tenants, they will take advantage of you all day long. And that is something I learned very quick. I was, people were late. I didn't charge rent, late fees. If people were, being in trouble or, I just wasn't tough on them like I should be. And that got me into many more problems than if I would have been tough, if I would have laid down the laws and rules right away. So you've got to make sure you manage properties right, which would be another topic. But yeah, property management can be a huge way to ease the burden of tenants. Money keeps coming in forever as long as we own the property. So that's one thing I love about rentals is as long as I own my rental properties, that cash flow keeps coming in every single month. It'll actually increase over time because with inflation, rents will slowly go up, if not quickly in some cases. And then you're slowly paying down your mortgages as well. And at some point, you're going to pay off your mortgages and your cash flow will increase even more, which is, a big boost to that monthly income. And like I said, with the right rental properties, you can build up enough income to retire much earlier than the stock market. And I'm going to show you exactly how. All right. Like I said, why is cash flow from real estate better than the stock market? When I was first researching how to invest my money, I didn't just automatically assume rental properties were the best way, even though I was in real estate. I wanted to make sure I was putting it in the right place. So I researched the stock market. I searched starting businesses, buying, all kinds of different things. And real estate just kept coming back to me over and over again. And one thing I really did not like about the stock market and putting my money into it, because I used to invest in the stock market, was the retirement calculators were just, you had to put so much money into those. And then you had no guarantee that money would last as long as you lived. And looking now, most calculators do not even give you an option to retire before you're 50 because there's so much money you have to last, 40, 30 years in retirement. You have to save millions and millions of dollars to retire early in the stock market. And then you have to figure out when you're going to die. What if you live too long? If you think you're going to live to 80, you live to 90, you've only saved enough money to be, to retire at 80. You've got 10 years where you don't have any money. So you either have to cut back on all your expenses to make it last longer, get another job. It's just not a good way to retire, if you ask me. Another thing that many people don't understand is the returns are not guaranteed. When you put 7%, 10% in that stock market calculator, there's a good chance it's not going to be as high as they say. May it'll be higher, may it'll be a lot less. Look at the early 2000s where things dropped by 50% in value. That destroyed so many people's retirement accounts. Expenses are pretty big on some 401ks, on some mutual funds. You pay 1 or 2% of your investment for the expenses on those funds, and people don't realize that. Again, market crashes, there's no guarantee things will go up. That could happen in real estate too, but I think you're safer in real estate than in stocks if something bad happens. Cash flow from rentals lasts as long as you own them, and you never eat into the principal. That's one of the biggest advantages with rentals is when you own them, that property is producing cash flow and you're never, taking away from that equity unless you refinance or anything. But with the stock market, at a certain point when you retire, you start eating into the money you've saved up. interest only goes so far. At some point, you got to start taking away from that chunk of money you invested. And that's why you can run out of money when you die or before you die. You can retire from a much smaller amount invested. So my $6,000 a month from rentals took about less than $300,000 of cash that I invested. So that $6,000 a month will come in as long as I live. And since I keep investing, keep buying more properties, it will go up. For me to retire with the stock market at this age, I just turned 37, to get $6,000 a month for the rest of my life, assuming I live to be, I think I put like 80 around there, I'd have to have $2.5 million in the bank right now. And that's assuming, the returns are steady, nothing crazy happens in the market. So 300,000 versus 2.5 million for the same amount of cash flow from retiring with the stock market versus rental properties. Pretty clear picture there of why I like rental properties. All right. So I also love to talk about appreciation when talking about rentals and why appreciation can be awesome, but you should not invest just for appreciation and why it's not as great as it might appear on the surface. I think a lot of times investing just for appreciation is no better than the stock market. You're speculating, you're hoping prices go up, but there's no guarantee prices will go up in real estate either. Sure, they usually do over time, but there's no guarantee we won't have, drops in the market. Certain neighborhoods will be affected, certain towns will be affected more than others. You really can't bet on only appreciation. And the reasons it's worse than you think it is a lot of times people, when they figure cash flow, they don't think of all the expenses, and you're actually paying money out of your pocket every month on a property with little or no cash flow. And it is not fun to pay money into an investment that's supposed to be making you money. You've really got to calculate your cash flow well. And if you're losing money in a house, it gets old real fast having to pay into it. When you sell a house, you don't get the full amount that you sell it for. You've got to pay agents. You've got to pay selling costs. Usually, if you're not a real estate agent yourself, you're going to pay about 10% of the value of your home on commissions, on maybe buyer's closing costs, on closing fees, title insurance. There's a lot of different costs that go into selling a house. So, if you buy a house for $200,000, sell it for $220,000, really you haven't made much money because all that profit's going to go to the selling costs. So while people think appreciation is great, you're making a lot of money on appreciation, you're actually not making nearly as much as you think you are when you figure in those selling costs. And you have to pay taxes on that profit too. So, if you make 20 grand, you're gonna have to pay taxes on that profit you make. Now it is nice with rentals. If you hold the property long enough, you pay capital gains, which is much lower than ordinary income taxes for most people. But, I talked about that depreciation. You can take off the structure, over 27 and a half years. When you sell a rental property and you've recaptured or you've depreciated, $50,000 and deducted $50,000 from your taxes, you have to pay back that depreciation. So it's called recapturing the depreciation you saved, because you just proved to the IRS that house didn't go down in value a bunch when you owned it. You actually made money on it. So there's ways to avoid this with the 1031 exchange. But straight up selling a house, you're going to pay quite a bit of taxes on rental property. Another thing that people need to consider, negative cash flow hurts your debt to income ratio, which is a huge factor that banks use to determine your ability to qualify for more rentals. So debt to income ratio is basically a monthly figure, how much money you make, your income, versus how much debt you have or your payments. Now, they don't care about lump sums if you have $1 million in debt. What they look at is, do you have $5,000 of income versus $2,500 a month in payments on your debt? So when you have negative cash flow, you're having usually more debt than income coming in, and that will greatly reduce or increase your debt to income ratio, which makes it much harder to buy more properties. When you have cash flowing properties that make you money, it will help you buy more properties. So very important. Cash flow is so huge to buying a lot of properties. Another thing I want to talk about, people think they can predict appreciation because their town is awesome. They've got great schools, all this industry moving in. And maybe to some effect you can, but I don't think you can accurately, predict the peaks and valleys or when a crash might be coming. A lot of people think my town is awesome. Like I said, people moving in, high economic growth rate, great schools, prices have to go up. I use San Francisco for an example. Everybody loves San Francisco. Amazing economy, tons of tech, Google, Oracle, all these big, massive tech companies there. Prices are crazy there. I mean, you have to pay $1 million to get a starter home in San Francisco right now. But, just because San Francisco is so awesome doesn't mean that prices have to keep going up. I have heard from a number of people in the area that they are starting to see cracks in funding for companies, the economy, just different things that I don't understand. I like to think I'm somewhat smart. I have a finance degree, but I mean, they're talking about high level economic, funding for startups, all kinds of stuff that is just way above my head. And they're saying how that might affect San Francisco's home prices. And even they will admit they don't know what it's going to do exactly, but it might affect it in some way. So if those really smart economists don't know what's going to happen with housing prices, I don't know how I can predict it and figure it out myself. So I always warn people, just because things are going up now doesn't mean they'll always go up at the same rate, or they can't go down at some point either. Another thing to think, how do you know prices aren't at their peak? One thing in San Francisco is, I think 8% of people can afford to buy a house there because prices are so high. So a lot of the people buying houses are from China, Asia, putting cash into U.S. real estate. But what happens if something happens in China and that cash stops coming in? I mean, you never know what could happen. How do you know the U.S. economy won't tank? If the U.S. economy tanks, it's probably going to bring down your market too, no matter how great it is, just because there'll be less jobs, more uncertainty. People don't want to buy houses when they don't know what's going to happen. And then how do you know the big investors have not already factored in all the things we talked about? There's a lot of hedge funds, a lot of really huge companies that buy real estate, and they look at all these things: growth rate, jobs, people moving in, and they buy houses where they see opportunity. They don't buy houses where they don't see opportunity. So there's a good chance that if there is a lot of opportunity, those big investors have pushed up prices already, or they're buying, especially in the really big metro areas. It's tough to find really great opportunities. In the smaller towns, I think that's actually where there are more opportunities for appreciation, for finding those deals. All right, how do you figure cash flow? Most people underestimate cash flow, even when they own rental properties, till they've had them a couple of years and they realize, wow, there's more expenses than I thought. Things happen. Cash flow is not just the rent minus the payment. A lot of people think, hey, my rent's $1,300. My mortgage payment is $1,000. I'm making $300 a month. That is not your cash flow. You have to figure many more things into it. You have to figure for maintenance and vacancies. I figure 5 to 15% of my rents coming in for maintenance. Now that depends on the age, the condition of the house. My cash flow calculator on the site actually gives you a table to help you determine exactly what your cash flow is, exactly what percentages you should figure. But things will break. Even in a brand new house, tenants are going to break things. They're going to mess up the carpet. They're going to mess up the paint. They're going to flush toys down the toilet. Things will happen. So you're going to have some maintenance. Now, the newer the house, the nicer shape it's in, probably the lower percentage you'll have. The older the house, the worse shape it is in, the higher percentage you'll have. And we'll talk about this too with single family versus multifamily, but different types of homes also have different rates. I think multifamily has more maintenance, more vacancies than single family, which is one reason why I like single family. So vacancies is another thing you have to consider. Again, 5 to 15%, depending on your vacancy rate in your area, depending on, the type of property, again, how great of a property manager you have, or you are yourself, all determine vacancies. But you will have times when you aren't collecting rent. Maybe you go 3 years and you have an awesome tenant who pays every single month on time. But then The next year they get sick, they have to go to the hospital, they can't pay their rent, you have to evict them. That is pricey. And that one, hospital trip could make up for 3 years of collecting awesome rent with a couple months vacant, maybe the eviction costs. So I also think you have to figure 5 to 15% for vacancies. You also have to figure, of course, taxes, insurance, which are usually included in your payments. Most mortgage payments include taxes and insurance, but HOA fees, monthly maintenance. If you have multifamily, many times you have to take care of parking lots, yards, lots of other fees that single family homes don't have. Utilities, again, most single family homes, the tenants pay all the utilities, but with multifamily, maybe you pay water, maybe you pay electric. And then property management, of course. You need to figure in property management. Even if you're managing homes yourself, you need to figure the time you're taking to manage it, because I know people don't want to work for free. No one really wants to work for free, so you need to figure those. All right, example of a cash flow on a rental. This is rental property number 4. I bought that in 2012. Bought it for $109,000. It's amazing, but it's worth about $220,000 in today's market. Been great. When I first bought it, I put about $15,000 of work into it, and it was probably worth $160 to $170 when I first bought it, maybe a little more. So not all of that's just appreciation. A lot of that was me getting a great, awesome deal on the property. So right now it rents for $1,600 a month. When I first bought it, it rented for $1,300 a month. So it's nice to see that rent increase, but the rent increase has not kept up with the price increases. It's definitely lagged behind a little. I refinanced this home last year, and I took out about $50,000 in cash. So every single dime I put into this property, I got back plus some, and I'm still making money on it, as we'll see. So my rent's $1,600. My payment's about $850 now. That includes taxes and insurance. Property management, $128 a month. Maintenance, I figure 10% maintenance on this property, so $160 a month. Vacancies, $80 a month. If you take the rent minus these expenses, I come up with $382 a month I'm making. So not a huge amount every month on that property, but you have to remember I have negative cash invested in it right now. I actually took cash out of it. So that would make my cash on cash return infinite, which is nice. But the real advantage in rental properties is once you buy multiple properties, this number goes up and up and up every month. So if I hadn't refinanced it, I think my payment before was about $550. So I'd have, $600-$700 a month in cash flow on that house. All right. So why great cash flow helps you buy more rentals? Like I said, the more cash flow you have, the more money you are making. So if you're doing a conventional loan, traditional financing, banks are really going to look at your income versus your debts. Like I've said, the more income you have coming in, showing on your taxes, the better off you will be. So if you're making money on your cash flow, that's going to help you qualify. And many banks will only count 70% of your cash flow because of their financing guidelines. So it's really smart to have as much cash flow as you possibly can. Great cash flowing properties will allow you to have a lower debt to income ratio, like I said. The other thing to consider, I use local portfolio lender. I'm going to talk about this later. There are national rental property lenders who lend on rental properties across the nation. They lend based off the cash flow and the performance of those properties, not just the borrower, their credit, their debt to income. So this is a great way to get around the debt to income ratio if you have problems using some of these lenders. But if you have properties that aren't cash flowing, it won't do you any good. They're not going to touch them unless they're making money, because they want to back a property they know is cash flowing, has equity, not a property just that might go up in value later on. These banks don't bank, sorry for the pun, on appreciation either. They look at how much money you're making. All right, so what types of properties have the best cash flow? Many people assume multifamily are the best investment properties. You see it all the time on forums, on articles, why multifamily is the best investment. I personally disagree, at least in my market. I prefer single family. I've seen many multifamily investors. My sister has college rentals that are multifamily. And the reason I like single family is, one, there's less maintenance. when someone rents a single family home, there's a lot better chance they will treat it as their own house. I have renters who've been in their houses for 3, 4 years without moving out. Some of them have never asked for me to repair anything. They just do it themselves because they feel it's their house. Something breaks, they'll repair it. They'll take care of the yard. Some obviously don't do that. They can be a pain, but for the most part, when you have a single family house, the renters will probably take care of it better. When you have a multifamily property, it's kind of an apartment, it's a duplex. It just doesn't feel like a home to people, and they're less likely to take care of it. So that's one reason why I like single family. There's less expenses on single family. So, like I said before, on multifamily, you might have to shovel snow from the parking lot if you've got a big property. You might have to shovel snow on the sidewalks. If there's common areas for grass, you've got to make sure they're being watered. You've got to make sure they're being mowed. A lot of times utilities are the responsibility of the landlord, where on single families, the tenants almost always pay all the utilities. There's a lot more expenses on multifamily. Longer term tenants, already talked about that. Single family tenants are almost, usually stay longer than multifamily because they feel it's their own house. Less vacancies, just like I said before, they stay in there longer. Less vacancies means you're making more money. Higher upside. What I mean by that is, I know I say I don't like to invest just for appreciation, but I still like appreciation. I like the fact my properties are, $1.5 million in equity almost. Multifamily properties do go up in value. They can, appreciate, but it's based on the income they bring in. So if you're, have a multifamily complex that brings in $10,000 a month, the value of that complex is going to be based on, how much money you make. So that 10,000 minus whatever expenses there are. And that's where you hear the term cap rate, which kind of determines what a multifamily property, investment property, will be worth. So if the cap rate goes up or down, that can affect value. And also if your income goes up and down, that can affect value. So if your income stays the same on that multifamily property for 10 years and the cap rate stays the same, it won't go up in value. But if you manage to raise the income or the cap rate goes down, then it could increase in value. Now, contrary to single family homes, a lot of times they aren't valued on the income they bring in. They're valued on how much owner occupants will pay for that house. And owner occupants will pay based on supply and demand. Just like in Colorado, we have too few houses for sale for the amount of people here who want to buy a house. So prices have shot up. And in most cases, single family homes do appreciate at a higher rate than multifamily homes. Not always, but in many cases they do. So that's one thing that is an advantage. And probably one of the biggest advantages, I think, at least in my area, is there's more properties to choose from. So, where I'm at in my town is probably 100,000 people. I don't know how many houses there are, but there's probably 10 to 1 houses versus multifamily properties. Maybe it's a higher ratio than that. So I want to get great, awesome deals when I buy houses. I want to buy way below market. So if there's 100 single family homes, but only 10 multifamily homes, the chances are I'm going to get better deals on the single family homes simply because there's more of them. And I see that all the time, and that's a huge advantage. But something you need to look at is what your market does, because in my area, you can actually make more money cash on cash return wise on single family homes than you can on multifamily homes. And a lot of that's because in popular areas where prices are high, there are a lot of big time cash investors who buy multifamily properties without loans, not to make a lot of money on them, but just to park their money in a safe investment, which they feel is real estate, which pushes the prices of those multifamily homes up. You see that in California, you see it now in Colorado, you see it in New York, where, investors say, how can you make money on these multifamily houses for how much they sell for? And you have to realize that people buying those properties are not people getting loans looking to, retire off this, cash flow. They're people parking cash in those properties, just, assuming they might go up in value 3 to 5% a year, and they're happy with that. So look at your market, because some markets will have great returns on multifamily versus single family, and others will be the complete opposite. All right, how much cash flow do you need? I get this question a lot. Like I said, I like to see $500 a month in my rentals, which I used to buy from $80,000 to $130,000. I can't find those properties anymore, which is very frustrating for me because of our market. That one property I listed a cash flow on, I make $380 on a month, but I refinanced it, so I took a bunch of money out. But it would have been, when I first bought it, it was at 500. If I hadn't refinanced, it'd be, close to 700 now, which is awesome. I put 20% down. I almost always have to make some repairs, and I always buy below market value. Besides the cash flow, though, because if you're making $500 a month on an $80,000 house versus $500 a month on a $300,000 house, you have completely different returns. So instead of looking at cash flow, I like to look at cash on cash return. And basically that's how much money you are making in cash flow and in profit based on how much cash you invested. So I have a cash flow calculator on my site as well, which is very good for this, but I like to see at least 15% cash on cash return. So that means I'm making 15%, interest, whatever you want to call it, on the cash I have invested. And that doesn't include any of the appreciation, any of the equity increase from buying below market value, any of the tax advantages. That's just cash flow based on cash return. And, 15% is pretty awesome. In the beginning, I was making 20%, which is even more awesome. That's how I like to judge how much I'm making. All right. So we talk about cash flow. What if your area does not have good numbers for cash flow, which many of us are facing right now? And honestly, not every market works well for cash flow. It's just usually the more popular, the more expensive an area is, the less cash flow it's going to have. So I know people who, want to invest in really big, awesome cities because they might live there or think, it's got high appreciation, but you have to realize it's going to be really hard to cash flow there because there's so many other investors who want to be in that area too and are willing to pay money just for the appreciation, not for actually making cash flow. Buying below market value will help, but it doesn't always, fix everything. Like right now, I can still get great deals here in Colorado. I'm flipping 9 houses. Obviously, you have to get a great deal to flip it, but they still don't make sense as rentals. Maybe that's because I'm spoiled because I got such good returns before, but I know there's other areas of the country where I can get that great cash flow too. So one other thing to consider, just because you don't see great cash flowing properties for sale right now does not mean they do not exist. So when I was getting those great deals before, I had to wait a month, 6 weeks to see a great property come up for sale. They don't just pop up on MLS every single day for sale. You can't just look on Zillow one day and not find any great cash flowing properties and assume your market sucks and you won't find them. You've really got to learn your market, really got to be patient and pay attention to things all the time because those good deals do come up and you've got to be on top of it to get them. So that's one thing. Don't just assume, because you don't see them right away, they're not there. But, if your average price is $250,000 and your average rent is $1,000 a month, it's probably going to be pretty tough. All right. And it is possible to invest in different markets. I've mentioned this before. I'm 90% sure right now I'm going to invest in Florida for rental properties in 2016. I see a lot of opportunity down there with many foreclosures, but increasing population and also increasing home prices as well. It's it reminds me of Colorado a few years ago. So I'm taking a trip March 12th. It's booked with the family. I mentioned I was thinking about going to Pensacola, but my family vetoed that because it wasn't warm enough. And I kind of agreed with them. So we're going to the East Coast, check out some towns there, see what we find. And then if I can't find anything good there, maybe I'll go to Pensacola another time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in many different markets in Florida. All right. How do you invest out of your area? A lot of people ask this question in my coaching programs when they're talking to me, and they hear all the, town, Memphis, Kansas City, all these places where there's a ton of turnkey rental property companies investing in. A turnkey property is one where it's been bought by a company. They fixed it up. They put a tenant in place. Property manager's there. All you have to do is buy the property and it's all taken care of for you. So it can be a way to invest, but you miss out on the buying below market value aspect, which I think is so huge. And also some of those towns, Memphis, I've heard is not a fun place to be if you've actually visited there yourself. And there's a ton of investment properties down there, people doing that. So I'm kind of leery of the places where everyone else is investing for rentals. I kind of like to go off the beaten path to find those great returns. But I always tell people, start close if possible. If you're in a big city where you can't cash flow, explore towns within a couple hours drive. See if there's other opportunities. Sometimes those smaller towns, I'm not saying like 500 people, but 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 people have the great markets for rental properties. They have, single family homes with steady, economies. That's where I think opportunities are for rental properties. Not that you can't make money in other areas, but for me, that's where I've had the most success. My town is about 100,000 people, 60 miles from Denver, real strong economy, and it's been awesome for me. If you can't find areas within a couple miles or a couple hours, sorry, a couple miles would be awesome. Start where you have connections or family. Did you grow up somewhere else across the country? Do you have parents, siblings, cousins in different parts of the country who you know and trust? I'm not saying you want them to work for you and find properties and do everything for you, but they can help you learn a market faster than doing it on your own. And learning the market is one of the most important things about investing. If you see a great deal and you have no idea about the neighborhood, is there someone there you can ask who would honestly tell you, hey, yeah, stay away from that part of town, or no, it's fine. We live close to there. If you're relying on real estate agents and turnkey companies, of course they're going to tell you it's a great area because they want to sell you the house. So it helps if you have connections or family there. Another thing you have to do is build a team. I will be investing in Florida, but I'm not going to move there. I might spend a couple of weeks there a year. So I'm going to have to find an awesome realtor unless I get licensed down there, which if things go really well, I might get licensed down there too. You have to find contractors who can repair homes for you, do maintenance if you need it. Find an awesome property manager. One of the most important things about buying rental properties, especially out of your area, is getting a great property manager. And do not be afraid to hire a third party to check on your properties for you. If you've got a friend out there, pay him $50 to go take pictures of your houses so you can see if they're being maintained. Find somebody on Craigslist who's a handyman who's willing to just go drive by, take pictures. Find real estate agents who are willing just to go drive by and make sure your houses are being maintained, because sometimes property managers don't do a good job, and you need to know that sooner rather than later. And a lender. If you're buying your first few properties, probably not too big of a deal finding a lender, but if you're buying more than 4, more than 10, you might need to find a local lender in the place you're investing in. I've been working on that too. I've made a bunch of calls, emails. I actually have a couple lenders lined up already who said they'd love to work with me. I don't know their terms yet exactly, but I have 15 mortgages in my name, plus all my fix and flip mortgages in my business. So it's not always easy finding a lender, but it's definitely not impossible either. Like I said, turnkey rentals are an option if you don't want to go through all this work, but you're going to make less money on them. All right, summary of buying with cash flow. I love to see appreciation cash flow, but I do not count on just appreciation. Some areas have awesome cash flow, but little appreciation. Others have awesome appreciation, but little cash flow. And there are the areas that have both, like Colorado did a few years ago. And if you want to join my coaching program, I'm happy to share all my research I've done around the country, my contacts. I know a lot of wholesalers, a lot of agents, a lot of lenders, and other investors across the country. I don't just give out their names to the blog because I don't want them inundated with 1,000 emails, but I'm happy to make introductions for people in my coaching programs. All right, number 2, why buy below market value? Buying below market value will make you money as soon as you buy the property. If you buy $20,000 below market value and the market declines, you're still in good shape, especially if you invest with cash flow. You bought with instant equity, plus you've got cash flow coming in every month. If the market goes down, you're not in bad shape. You don't have to sell the house. just wait for it to go back up again. I know many investors who survived the last housing crisis because they had great cash flow. They got great deals on their properties, and their rents may have gone down for a couple of years, but now they're back up higher than they were before. They're still in great shape. Buying below market value allows you to sell if you ever need to, or refinance like I have to take money out for more properties. You can buy below market value in any area. I don't care where you're at. Doesn't mean you can cash flow great, but you can still buy below market value. And like I said, I do that. I've got 9 flips now, and I bought 5 rentals last year. You can buy below market value out of state as well. And that's something that's a little tougher, but if you know how to search for properties, have the right team, the right real estate agent, you can definitely do that. What does it mean to buy below market value? I think some people think that just because you're buying less than what other houses are listed for, you're getting a great deal. But I want to buy at least 20% below market value after I pay for the repairs. So for example, if I buy a house for $100,000 and it needs $20,000 in repairs, I want that home to be worth at least $150,000 when I'm done, not $120,000. So I've got $30,000 equity. I bought it 20% below market value once you factor in my repairs and the purchase price. There is no advantage to buying for $100,000, putting $20,000 of work into the house, and then having a house worth $120,000 still. I mean, it makes more sense just to buy the house already fixed up for $120,000 because it takes less time, less hassle. That is not buying below market value. How do you buy below market value? MLS, definitely possible. REOs and short sales. An REO is a bank-owned foreclosure, a home that went through foreclosure and the bank now owns. Traditional sales and estate sales, do not discount those. I buy many of my properties this way. Auction sales, off market. These are properties that are not for sale. So you can use direct marketing, wholesalers, auctions. Don't worry, I'm going into more detail on all of these. So how can you get great deals from the MLS? Deals on the MLS are available all the time. I just got 2 of them under contract today. Acting extremely fast is the key to getting many of these deals. And you have to have an awesome agent or be an agent yourself. If you have an agent who won't get back to you for 2 days, who can't write an offer for 2 days, get a new agent. I don't care if they're your friend, your family. You need someone on your team who can act quickly. They have to act very fast. They do not have to be an investor to be a good agent, okay? It helps if they know about investing. It helps if they know the terms, but they don't have to be an investor. If you look at me, I am a horrible agent to use for buying investment properties because I want to buy them all myself. I don't want to sell them to someone else. I want to buy them. I don't work with investors myself. Agents on my team do. I tell them, hey, don't tell me what your clients are doing. I won't tell you what I'm doing. Keep it separate. I don't want a conflict of interest because, if you have an agent who buys all the time, it might not, be the best thing. Your agent does not have to sell 100 homes a year. They don't have to be super agent, number 1 agent in the country, because they're probably going to be so busy they won't have time for you. So does not hurt to have a young agent, a hungry agent who has time to help you out. Like I said, they don't have to be knowledgeable about investing because most of the great investors out there, they know the deals themselves. They know the numbers themselves. They don't have to rely on an agent to do it for them. All right, like I said, I've got 2 flips under contract yesterday. ARV on one of them. This is the after repaired value. So if you do fix and flips, you might see that a lot. That means what the home is worth after it's fixed up. About 185 is what it'll be worth. I bought it. Well, I haven't bought it yet, but 118 is what I'm getting it for. The other one probably worth 180. I got it for 103, and there were over 30 offers on these properties, but I got them both, so I was pretty stoked about that. Those properties came up for sale. I looked at them the first day, made an offer that first day. I was hoping to get my offers accepted before they got other offers, but they asked for highest and best. Ended up raising my offers and getting them. But many times I'll get properties under contract before they ask for highest and best. The other way to get great deals is finding motivated sellers on MLS. They might not have a low price, but they're still motivated. And the way to find that is looking at the MLS description, looking for terms like as is, needs TLC, will look at all offers, House needs work. House needs cleaned. I bought one that said, house needs cleaned. I mean, how desperate are the sellers so they can't spend $200 to clean their house before they sell it? Obviously, that's a sign it needs a lot of work, or the sellers want to sell it fast. Look for fast price changes. So one I bought, they listed for like 105. 5 days later, after it'd been on the market, they lowered it to like 100. When someone lowers the price that fast, that means they want to sell it quick, and you might be able to get it for much less. I got mine for $85,000 when they're asking 100 for it. Look for age listings from banks and HUDs. You kind of need a real estate agent or be an agent yourself to know exactly how long properties have been listed, especially with HUD. But over 60 days, and these companies start looking at low offers. All right, what are the best deals on the MLS? Like I said, HUD, foreclosures. Foreclosures or REOs can be a great deal, but banks take a while to respond. So somebody can offer the first day might not be that great on REOs. They don't want to dump their houses as quickly as possible to anybody who comes with money. I know a lot of people say, hey, I assume banks just want to sell their house for 20 cents on the dollar because they want to get rid of them, get them off the books. That is not real life. Banks want to make as much money as they can, just like a regular seller. It's not automatically a great deal just because it's a foreclosure. They also will almost never sell their listings before they're listed with an agent. So people come to me all the time and say, hey, I've seen this house has been vacant for 2 years. It's got the signs in the windows. I know it's bank owned. How do I find the bank and make an offer on it? And the short answer is you can't. 90% of banks have policies in place where they will not sell their houses without them being listed with a real estate agent. So you're probably wasting your time if you're trying to find that bank and make them an offer. Unless it's a local bank, you might have a shot, but I don't spend time doing that. You can get deals if you know how each bank works, how HUD works. HUD has a tricky bid system, a lot of intricacies with it, but once you learn it, you can get some awesome deals on HUD. Unfortunately, I cannot buy HUD homes because I am a HUD listing agent, and I am prohibited from buying any HUDs. Every agent in my office is prohibited from buying HUDs. My entire family is prohibited from buying HUDs, but it's definitely worth it to be a HUD listing broker, even though I can't buy them. Many banks I can't buy from as well because I work with them as well. Many banks, HUD gives priority to owner occupants. So do not pretend to be an owner occupant if you're an investor. It's just not a good thing to do. And you will just have to wait until investors can bid. Like I said, it's my specialty. I'm a HUD REO listing broker. I work for 35 different banks listing homes for them. Right now, we have almost nothing in Colorado because our prices are so high. All right, buying other types of listings. Do not ignore traditional listings. I know some people say, well, I've got a search set up in MLS for every HUD and REO that comes up. Well, what about the other properties? Do not limit yourself to just foreclosures or short sales. Estate sales can be an awesome way to get a deal. These two properties I had in a contract, they were estate sales. Very motivated sellers. Sometimes they just want to sell as fast as they can, get their money out. Many times they'll take low offers. Houses that need work. Some sellers, they destroy their homes and they live in them. They have pets, they just don't take care of them. Or they bought fixer-uppers, never fixed them. If a house needs work, that's a much better opportunity to get a great deal on it. Short sales. A short sale is when an owner is trying to sell their house. They still own it, but they have to sell it for less than they owe the bank. So basically, they have to go to the bank and ask permission for the bank to take less money than what they owe it against it. So there's less short sales now than there were, but there's still a few out there. They can be a great deal, but they can take months to complete. But definitely opportunities there. These are the deals you want to act very fast on and get them before other investors come in. That's where there's huge opportunity. All right, here is rental property 16. This is a good example of how I acted fast. Listed for $92,900. I made an offer that same day for $92,900. Someone asked earlier, what's the oldest house I've bought? This one was 1905. It's my oldest rental property for sure. I was kind of scared buying a rental property that old. And that's one reason why I'm looking at other markets now, because I'm thinking to myself, man, I really had to sacrifice my criteria for buying properties to get this one. It's so old. Offer same day, $92,000, no inspection. I offered cash, but many times I can use financing and offer cash at the same time, which is kind of a cool way to do it. They had 3 other offers that same day. They accepted mine with no highest and best, no counter, because I had full price, no inspection. I came in so fast. This house is rented now for $1,100. We only had to put $2,000 of work into it. All we had to do was add a washer and dryer hookup, really, and do a couple minor other things. And I bought this house 6 months ago, and it's probably worth $140 right now. I mean, it was crazy low priced, and there are opportunities on MLS. All right, auction sales. Some auction sites list their properties on MLS, and some do not. So here are a few auction sites: Hubzu, Home Search, Williams & Williams, Hudson, and Marshall. I've bought properties a lot through Hubzu, some through these other companies, but some of these auctions require cash. Some will do financing. Some auctions take the highest bid. Others might negotiate if the bid doesn't meet the reserve. Some auctions allow inspections. Some don't. They all have different terms. So you have to be very careful. Read everything they say on these. Many of these auctions have a really low reserve price, like $50,000 on a $200,000 house. That doesn't mean they're going to take $50,000. It just means that's the starting price. Their reserve is usually much higher, closer to list price. If some of these houses are occupied, I bought an occupied house from Hubzu this year. That means it's your responsibility to get the tenant out, the previous owner. And many times those are not in the MLS. So you can find deals there as well. All right, trustee sales. So these are like county foreclosure auctions. Used to buy almost all my flips from the trustee sale. Now I don't, because the competition is so crazy there. Prices are so high. I can get a better deal from the MLS. You have to be very, very careful. You don't get title insurance. Title company does not close on this. You have to have cash at the sale. No guarantee you're buying a first loan. So you have to make sure you get a title company or do your own research for the loans and liens against it. There's back taxes, water, HOA. Some of those survive the foreclosure, and you might have to pay those as well. And many times you cannot see the house before you buy it. And like I said, it can be very competitive. So trustee sales, depending on your area, maybe there's opportunity there, but just because it's selling at the foreclosure steps does not automatically make it a great deal. Off-market properties, houses that are not for sale. So these are houses that maybe someone wants to sell, but they haven't listed with an agent. They haven't sold them for sale by owner. Driving for dollars is the easiest way to find off-market properties. Basically, you look for vacant homes, look for distressed homes, contact the owners, find out if they want to sell or not. It's that simple. If the house is distressed, if it's vacant, a lot of times the seller wants to sell it. Maybe they're just have things going on, issues, whatever, and they haven't listed it. Try and contact them, figure out if they'll sell it. Direct mail. Many people do this to find deals. What you're doing is basically sending letters, postcards to those same type of people who might want to sell their house but haven't listed it. You can absentee owners, people who inherit houses, people who live out of state. That's basically what an absentee owner is. Send your letters to people who have a certain amount of equity in the home. You've got to send hundreds, if not thousands of letters to get a deal from this. It's not easy. It takes money to send all those. And you've got to send a number of letters to the same people. You have to have hard skin and be willing to accept calls from people who will yell at you and tell you to stop sending them letters. So it's not always easy to get this stuff done, but it can be very effective. There are people who make a living just doing direct mail. Bandit signs, those are those signs you see on the side of the road or somewhere that says, "We buy houses for cash," or "We buy moldy houses," "We buy, fire damaged houses." I've seen all types of them. And basically, you're putting signs in the road, hoping someone will call you if they want to sell their house, but they don't want to list it. And of course, you can have websites that advertise you buy houses for cash, quick closing. Maybe if it's set up right, people will come find your website, or you can advertise that website on Facebook, advertise it on Google. Lots of different ways to get off-market properties. I do use some of these techniques, but my specialty is MLS. That's where I think it's easier than doing a lot of this stuff, I think. This takes a lot of work. All right. How do you get your offer accepted when you make an offer? Cash offers, cash is king. Now, unless you're dealing with HUD doesn't care. You can have 100% financing or cash. HUD gives no preference to either one. They only care about the price. But most sellers care about cash. And the trick is you don't always have to have cash. I'll make offers that say they're cash, and I'll have a little clause and additional provisions that says, I have the ability to buy this house in cash, but I might use portfolio lending to finance part of it. If I do use portfolio lending, it will not affect any of the dates. There will be no loan contingency, no appraisal, etc. That way I can still use financing with a cash offer. Once in a while, a seller won't like that and they just want straight cash. Okay, I'll just make a cash offer. But that's one way to kind of make that offer. And I do have the cash to buy these properties if I have to. I'm not lying about that either. No contingencies. Most of my offers, I have no inspection, no appraisal, no loan conditions. I let sellers know, hey, I'm making this offer. It's going to close. You don't have to worry about me backing out, coming back asking for $10,000 price reduction. This helps me get a ton more offers than other people. I can still cancel the contract if I want to, but I'll probably lose my earnest money, whether it's $1,000, $2,000. But I mean, when I make these offers, I know I'm going to buy them. I have not canceled a contract in years, I don't think. You have to be very experienced to use these techniques. This is not something I recommend for beginners to come in and start doing. You need to know condition, what repairs cost, what issues to look for. So I don't suggest doing this until you are experienced, you're comfortable with houses, and you know what you're doing. Another way to get offers accepted, sometimes you offer higher earnest money. You know, if they are asking for $1,000, hey, offer $5,000 earnest money. If you still have an inspection contingency, you can still get it back. You're not losing that money. Shortening the close date. Sometimes it helps to close in 15 days instead of 30 days. I had one deal I got where they wanted me to close in 7 days. I said, okay, I can do it. And we ended up getting a deal because of that I think they had other offers that were 10, 15,000 higher than ours, but they had to close in 30 days and they wanted to close fast. All right. So what did we talk about with buying below market value? This is one of the big reasons why I've been so successful. Like I said, anyone can pay retail for homes. You can go out and buy on the MLS all day long, but really being successful comes from finding those deals, buying below market value. It is not impossible, even in a hot market, to find those deals. Now, you have to learn your market. You have to know how to find them, but it's definitely doable. You really need to be an agent or have an awesome agent on your team to find them. Or another option is use direct marketing, set that system up. Do not rule out the MLS. Do not rule out non-REO or HUD listings. Look at everything. I cover all this in detail in my coaching programs. This is one of the huge chunks of it because it's so important. All right, still going. More information, like I said, how to finance your rentals. A lot of people like to use cash. I don't. You know, debt used to make money will make you even more money if you use it correctly. Now, if you are crazy and reckless with your debt, of course it can bury you. But if you're using debt to buy income producing properties that make, great returns, it will put you in better position than using cash. Cash is not always the best way to buy. I think the more flexible debt you have, the safer you are as well. And when you buy a property with cash, that money is tied up in that property. It's not easily accessible. I'm going to show you how that's happened to other people before, getting stuck buying with cash. And there are many ways to finance properties. It's not as hard as some banks make it out to be. All right, so how much money do you need to buy a rental? A typical rental property will require 20% down at a minimum. Now, that's if you're buying as an investor. There's other ways to buy with less money down. Many banks will want to see 6 months of reserves in cash on top of the down payment. So that means principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for all mortgages in your name. So for example, if you have $3,000 of mortgage payments a month, the bank will want to see $18,000 in your accounts on top of the 20% down, that down payment. So if you don't have that money, I want you to think about, are you safe buying a rental property without any extra cash? This is a good thing that banks require that, because you need reserves to be safe when you're buying rentals. But there are ways to buy with less money down. Owner occupants can put much less down. Refinancing properties like I've done, getting HELOCs, that's a home equity line of credit, similar to a refinance, but a little different. Private money, another way, borrowing from friends, family, coworkers. There's lots of ways to buy with less money down. So why should you not buy with cash? I have many investors I work with who bought with cash, and now they can't buy any more houses, and it's really frustrating to them. The problem is when you buy with cash, it's not always easy to refinance, especially if you're retired, self-employed, or have that high debt to income ratio. The investors, they thought they're doing the right thing, buying with cash. They thought it's safer, but that money is stuck, and maybe they retired to be full-time in real estate, or they're self-employed, or they've just got too much debt. And all of a sudden the bank said, no, we will not refinance this property you bought free and clear. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense, but that's how the banks operate. And the investors get stuck because normal lenders just won't refinance them. But I have helped a number of people find lenders who do lend on kind of common sense guidelines instead of debt to income ratios. Those local lenders, some of the national lenders, can help you get out of those situations. But if you use loans to begin with, you won't run into this problem. You'll be in much better position. Returns with cash. So people assume that cash automatically gives you better returns, but it really doesn't. When you buy with cash, it can actually decrease your returns. The cash flow is less on one property paid with cash than 3 good rentals bought with leverage. Now this will depend on how much cash flow you're getting, but for the most part, I can buy 3 properties with a loan and bring in much more cash flow than one property bought in all cash. And I'll usually have less money invested in those 3 properties as well. So here's an example of the advantages of a loan. You buy properties below market value like I do. You get 1 for cash. Maybe you gain $20,000 in equity. You buy 3 with a loan. You just gain $60,000 in equity because you bought 3 below market value instead of 1. Cash flow. The cash flow will be more per property when you buy with cash, but all your cash is tied up in it. So maybe you have $800 a month in cash flow on that property. But those 3 other properties with the same amount of cash or less, you're probably making at least $400 a month cash flow. So you're making more cash flow per month. The equity pay down, you don't have a loan on the cash property, so you're never paying down the loan. But on those mortgages, you're probably paying down at least $1,000 a year, probably more. So you're making more money there. Tax savings, you have 1 property you can depreciate versus 3 properties you can depreciate. Big difference there. Appreciation, if the houses go up in value, you've got 3 houses appreciating versus 1. Now, people may say, well, what if prices go down? Now you've got 3 properties going down in value versus 1. That's true. But because you bought below market value, you started with a much bigger cushion here with those 3 properties in that one. So it's not always the end of the world if prices go down. And like I said, if you have cash flow, if you don't have to sell, it doesn't hurt you if prices go down, and eventually they'll probably go up. So you add all this up, you get $80,000, $400 of gain with a loan versus $30,000 gain without a loan. And that doesn't consider any appreciation at all. That's just straight, basically 1 year. All right, so how risky are loans? Now, when you get great deals at cash flow, it's almost less risky than cash. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but one thing people don't consider is when you have paid off properties, that can bring sue-happy tenants who are looking to fall and get hurt and sue the landlord, and they look for properties that are paid off because they know there's money there. If there's a loan on the property, maybe that landlord doesn't have any money, they won't make anything. But if there's no loan, dollar signs. More properties equals more diversification. So if you've got 1 property paid for in cash and it goes vacant, you have no money coming in. 1 property needing work, hey, that's a lot of cash flow going out. If you're doing work on it, probably no money coming in. Different neighborhoods appreciate and they depreciate at different rates. So what I mean is neighborhoods can go up or down in towns at different rates. So the more properties you have, you're not tied into one neighborhood and hoping it does great, hoping it doesn't depreciate. If you've got properties in different neighborhoods, you're less adverse to that risk. The more properties you have, the more cash flow you will make. The more diversification you have, the safer you're going to be. So what are the different types of loans available? Conventional, great in the beginning with fixed rates, long terms. Portfolio lenders, awesome for buying many houses, flexible terms, easier to buy. You can get fix and flip financing as well with portfolio lenders. National lenders, there's national hard money lenders. Long-term rental property lenders now. This was not available a couple of years ago. This is a new programs. Private money, awesome for building up quickly and getting great deals. You can use private money to buy with cash, then refinance later. I use private money from my sister, from another investor I know. So conventional loans, great for the first 4 properties. Usually 30-year fixed rate mortgages. The rates never go up. Less than a 5% interest rate. You probably have to put 20% down. But after you have 4 mortgages in your name, these get tougher to get. You can still get them, but you'll have to put 25% down. Need at least a 720 credit score. No cash out refinances. That's a big one. Makes it really tough when you can't do a cash out. After 10 mortgages, you're pretty much done with conventional. They won't lend to you anymore. Portfolio lenders, that's who I love to use. Local lenders that do not sell to a secondary market. The conventional lenders will sell their loans to investment-backed securities. You don't need to know all that. But basically, local lenders don't sell their loans. Credit unions, community banks, small banks are who you're looking for. Terms and rates will vary greatly. Many conventional lenders do a 30-year amortization. That means the loan is 30 years long, and that's what the payments are based off. Some portfolio lenders do 25, 20 years. Some do 30. Mine does. ARMs, that's an adjustable rate mortgage. That means after a certain amount of time, the rate can change. Important to know that. But you do have some fixed loan options. My lender does 20% down, 4.5% interest on a 5-year ARM. That means the rate is fixed. It can't change from 4.5% for the first 5 years. After 5 years, it can go up if interest rates have risen across the nation. But it can only go up to a maximum of like 8% and only like 1% per year. It is on a 30-year amortization. No set limits on the amount of loans in your name. Like I said, I have 15 mortgages with my lender, and they offer fix and flip financing as well. So my lender will finance 75% of the loan to value on my flips, 5.25% interest, and they charge me 1% fee. That is awesome financing on flips. Now, they can be tough to find. If you're looking for a portfolio lender, you don't always ask for a portfolio lender. Sometimes you ask for the commercial or business lending department. But that's something else I do a lot of my coaching is help people find those lenders. National portfolio lenders, large companies backed by hedge funds. Many of these have no limit to the number of loans you can have. Lending guidelines are based on the property, not the borrower. I talked about debt to income ratio. These guys don't care as much about debt to income, but that your houses have great cash flow. And a lot of them want to see at least $100,000 value homes when they finance. They don't want to finance $20,000 rentals. They want higher value homes. 30-year fixed rate loans are available, but a little higher rate, 6 to 9% interest rates. I'm thinking about refinancing some properties with one of these companies. We'll see. My company, I focus a lot getting people the right financing. I can make personal introductions to many of these companies, tell you the details on exactly what they offer. All right, hard money lenders, short-term financing, less than 1 year. These are really for fix and flips, but people can use them for rentals too. High interest rates, 10 to 16%. High fees, usually 2 to 6% of your loan amount is paid as just a fee. But you can finance more than 80% of the loan to value in some cases, and you can finance some of the repairs in some cases. That's the advantage of hard money. Very fast closing times. Usually they can close in a week or two. Great for the buy, repair, and refinance model. So I know we're going a long time here, but what this is you buy a house, get a hard money loan. The loan, say it's 90% of the value plus 10,000 repairs. So your loan you have on the property is probably close to what you bought it for, maybe a little more. Make the repairs. You can refinance that house into a conventional loan. And if it appraises high enough, that conventional loan can pay off this entire hard money loan, which means you got into the property for a lot less than 20% down. But this is a risky strategy. You have to be very experienced to do that. All right, loans with a little money down. Probably the easiest way is buy as an owner occupant, then rent out the home after 1 year. So you have to live there for a year in most cases. Sometimes it's different. But you can buy as an owner occupant with 3% down or less on some loans. VA, if you're a veteran, awesome loan, or in the military. But you'll have insurance, which is a cost every month, and higher costs. So it's tougher to make the cash flow with these loans. But if you can find great deals, still a great way to get started. Hard money loan to conventional refinance. That's what I just talked about. Buy with hard money, private money, finance the purchase price plus repairs, refinance the entire loan amount using a Fannie Mae loan. You can even get money back after the refinance if you have good enough numbers doing that strategy. Private money, friends, family, coworkers, other investors. There's a lot of companies that advertise private money online, but they're not real private money. They're more hard money. Real private money are people you know who want to make more than 2% interest rate on their account, and you can borrow money from them for your investing. Finally, a Fannie Mae home style mortgage. Finance part of the repairs for investors. So most investors feel they have to pay all the repairs out of their pocket. This loan lets you finance some of the repairs on investment property. And finally, lines of credit, refinance. If you have equity in your personal house or rental property, you could refinance it, take cash out like I did, or you can get a line of credit, which is like a loan, a second loan on your house, but you can borrow money, pay it back, borrow money, pay it back as you need it. All right, summary of using financing. If you use the right financing, better returns than cash, more diversification than cash. Finding local portfolio lenders is probably the key for most people who want to buy a lot of properties. And a lot of that's based on relationships and your experience investing. Buying with less money down, private money, hard money, HELOC, refinance, owner occupant, all strategies to use. All right, so getting to the end here, closer, putting all this together to buy multiple rentals. Like I said, buying one rental is great, but if you can buy many rentals, that's where you see that awesome cash flow. That's where you see those huge advantages, like, building $1 million in equity over a few years. When you buy below market value, you build in equity. So that's the number one key. You can use that equity to buy more rentals, with lines of credit, refinances, or doing an exchange. 1031 exchange is what I'm looking to do. Sell one property, buy a similar property somewhere else using all the money I've sold that first property for. When you have the right financing, it gives you more cash flow and better returns. Like I said, financing is awesome. You use less of your own cash, buy more properties, and still make more money. When you buy with great cash flow, you can prove that you know what you're doing and you're making money. So this makes it easier to get more loans, buy more properties. It also attracts investors if you ever want to get private money. If you go ask for people for private money and you have no track record, they're going to be leery. But if you can show them you've got great cash flow, you're making money on your properties, that helps you get more financing, more private money. So after going through all this, why don't more people invest in rentals? Well, money. That's probably the number one factor. Most people can't save enough or know enough about the low money down options to buy. The market, many people don't know how to find those great deals, what houses are really worth, or maybe they're in an area where it's hard to cash flow. Financing. Most people don't know all the options available for financing. Most people don't know how to use portfolio lenders, how to use some of these national lenders or home equity lines of credit to buy more properties. And management. Like, this would be a whole nother webinar, but people are scared about the management aspect of rental properties. But you can always hire a property manager, spend your time, take your time doing it, but you don't have to do all this yourself. All right, so where do you go from here? I kind of listed some action steps that you can take right away to get started if you've never done rentals or you want to increase. Number one, learn your market better than anybody else. That's probably the number one thing you can do. If you're not investing in your own market, learn another market, learn prices, rents, figure out what deals are, how much money you can make. And that's just one of the best things you can do as an investor. Talk to a lender and obtain financing ASAP. Even if you think you have bad credit, you don't have any money, I don't care. Go talk to a lender right now and figure out how bad a shape you're in. You might be surprised that you could buy something, or they'll give you steps to take to fix your credit or to get money. They'll give you a basis for what you need to do. Don't be afraid to talk to a lender. That will help you move quicker. Start building a team. Agents, lenders, contractors, property managers. Talk to as many as you can. Keep detailed notes. Keep, some kind of system so you can keep track of who you've talked to, who you like, who you don't like. Sooner you start talking to people, the better off you'll be. All right. How can I help you invest in rentals or buy more rentals? So like I said, I have a coaching program that covers everything we talked about, plus a lot more. It is not easy building a team. I've got contacts I can share with you. I don't have contacts for every single market, every single person, but I have a lot. I know a lot of people from my blog and my investing. It's not easy learning your market. My coaching program goes into really in depth on how to learn your market, how to figure out what good deals are. And it's not easy getting financing. Like I said, happy to help people find that, make introductions. My coaching program gives you the information you need. It gives it to you in the order where you need to learn it. And then it also gives you specific steps to take as far as what actions to do when to get you started as quickly as possible. So it kind of gives you a roadmap of how to get started if you don't know what you're doing or you want to buy more and more properties. Can you learn all this for free? Yes, you can. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say I have some secret sauce that nobody else has. But the question you have to ask yourself is, how long would it take you to learn it all by yourself? And what's your time worth? I know my time is worth a lot. I spend money on coaching programs all the time because it helps me learn faster and better, and I avoid mistakes that I know I would make on my own. Also, some things to consider. I mean, you can spend a lot of time online reading awesome articles, forums, even my articles, but you're going to get different advice from different people in every single thing you read. It can get really frustrating. Even my articles give different advice for different situations. Not everybody is in the same, spot in their life, and they need different things for different areas. And you need to know who you're listening to. Who are the people? Are they investors? Are they just people online who like to talk? Are they people who, it's sad, but some people like to try and give bad advice. They think it's fun. Make sure you know who you're listening to. So my advice is pick an awesome investor you want to emulate and learn from them, work with them. Even if it's not me, even if it's someone else, pick a model you really like, learn as much from them as you can, and focus. All right, so my program's Complete Blueprint for Successful Real Estate Investing. Comes with a 300-page guide that gets mailed to you, and you get instant access to a PDF. We do coaching calls twice a month with me personally. All the coaching's with me. I don't have other coaches. That goes for at least 6 months. There is the option to extend that as well. All calls are recorded. So every call I've ever done, you have access to as soon as you join. Over 10 hours. I think it's quite a bit longer than that now. I do video modules for each chapter as well. It's all different. CDs, MP3s, I've over 2 hours of recorded audio I've personally done. They get mailed to you, and you get instant access to MP3s. Unlimited email coaching with me. I know people don't believe me, but I answer all my emails myself, and I am kind of an email junkie. So that's one thing I try not to do is get stuck in my email too long, but I love helping people with problems, helping them fix it. Private Facebook group. So we've got a really cool group on Facebook where you can network with other successful people, just for people in the Blueprint program. I post stuff in there on my personal investing. I talk to everybody. I'm very active in that group. What will the Blueprint help you do? I mean, it's meant to help you buy more houses, help you learn to invest the right way, help you start building for retirement now, help you choose the right market, help you find awesome deals, and really whatever you need help with. Even if it's writing a blog, I'm happy to share whatever I know. I mean, people who know me, I'm an open book. I don't hide anything. I love to talk about everything that's going on. So what can I help with? The personal coaching, analyze deals, or I can help you figure out what numbers you need to know to analyze the deal yourself. I know a lot of people say, hey, I bought this house is for sale for $120,000. Is it a good deal? I'm like, I don't have any idea. I don't know what it rents for. I don't know how much you can put down. I don't know the financing. I don't know what houses are worth. And I can tell you exactly what you need to know so I can help you figure out if it's a good deal or not. Love to brainstorm, figure out markets to invest in, finding the right financing. Like I said, I share my contacts with national and local lenders, find the right deals. Happy to share contacts I have with wholesalers, REO agents across the country. I know a ton of REO agents because of the groups I'm in. I know a lot of wholesalers because of my blog and people I've talked to. All the coaching's with me, no one else. I answer all the emails. All right. One bonus I'm offering, I just started this. When you buy the Blueprint, I create an intake form. As soon as you join, you can fill that out. Give me details about what you're doing right now as far as investing. Send it to me. It goes directly to me. I'll tell you exactly what I think you can do right now to improve your investing, improve the path you're taking. And I check stuff all the time. So it'll be 24 hours or sooner. I'll reply to you. Whole program comes with a money back guarantee. So I've sold a couple hundred of these, and I think 4 people have ever asked for a refund ever. And they, I think, wanted a refund before they even bought it. So there's some people like that out there, but I'm sure I have one of the highest rates of retention probably in the industry with this program. So if you're interested, here is the link. And this is where my technical skills come into play. I will also display an offer on the right where you can go to my shop use coupon code webinar35 to get 35% off. I mean, that's a massive discount I only give on webinars, or this webinar. So here's a link. You probably can't click on it. Right here, how to find the blueprint. You can go to this link right here. You can go to my resources page on investformore.com. It's listed on there. You can go straight to my shop right here, or you can click on the offer page on the right. Again, that coupon code is webinar35. I'll have that up for a couple days, and then it will be gone. So now I can answer questions. All right, I'll leave this up for everybody to see. And let me go back. I know we had some questions here. Try and go back to the first one. There we go. Do you know of the market for rentals in Los Angeles, California? I don't know much about it. I know it's extremely expensive. I know it's extremely hard to cash flow. I talk with many people who are investing out of state in LA because it's so expensive. Do you own property outside of your home state? Yes, I own one turnkey rental in Cleveland. I bought that kind of as an experiment in my IRA because I didn't want to have it in the stock market to see how it went. It's been so far so good. Happy to share the company I bought that with if you want to email me. By the way, you all are welcome to email me. mark@investformore.com. It's my email address. That goes straight to me. Let's see, keep going up here. Mark, do you provide management services for out-of-state investors? No, unfortunately, I do not. We only manage my own properties right now. And that is because it takes a lot more oversight, a lot more to manage other people's properties than my own. So at this moment, my team only manages my properties. I can refer you to some decent property managers in my area. If you're interested in buying rentals around my area, I can refer you to some managers though. Do you like condos as rentals? They cash flow better than single family in appreciating areas. Condos, you have to be careful on. Like I said, some might cash flow better depending on your area. In other areas, they don't cash flow better. But you have to be careful because the HOA fees can be so high on condos. Some condos have $200-$300 a month HOA fees cut right into your cash flow. So be careful with that. Some of the costs are less on condos though. Like the HOA might pay for your water, might pay for your exterior maintenance, pay for your exterior insurance. So it's all about the numbers. I would look at the numbers. Sometimes they appreciate worse than single family, I'd say. Very market dependent. Another question, how can we learn about market conditions in a certain area? What resources do you use and where can you obtain statistics on types of homes, trends in home prices, average cash flows, and market? Thanks. Okay, that's a lot of questions. Takes a lot of work. I use a mixture of Zillow to see some median home price trends. I will use like city data, or was it Sperling's best places to look at crime rates, to look at economies. I will look at investability.com to see what some rent rates might be. There's a lot of different things you can look at, a lot of different tools. So yeah, and cash flows is going to be based on, figuring out what the rents are based on what the purchase prices are. See, what percent below market value are you purchasing your properties? I like to be at least 20% below, but sometimes I'm like 30% below. So depends, but I really like to be at least 20% below market value. Do you think being a HUD broker is more profitable than being able to buy HUD property? Yes, it is. Right now, maybe it's not as profitable because there's so few HUD homes where I'm at. But in the peak, 2009 to 2011, I was selling close to 200 houses a year as an agent, and 3/4 of those were HUD homes. So I was making, I would have to look back, but probably $400,000 to $500,000 in commissions a year from HUD. Now, a lot of expenses in that. I have a lot of team, so that's not all profit. But yes, being a HUD broker was more profitable than being able to buy HUD. Michael asks, how do you offer with cash but use financing? Like I said, I use that term where in additional provisions I say, I have cash to buy the property, but I might use a portfolio lender to finance the house. Now, in that case, I'm not I don't have an appraisal condition. My portfolio lender does not require an appraisal. I don't have any loan conditions. So if that loan doesn't go through for any reason, I'm out my earnest money, but unless I pay cash. So you can offer with cash, kind of using financing, but you don't have the safety nets a loan would have with getting the loan. All right. If I have a $200,000 paid off property, I want to turn it into a rental. How do I correct that? First off, I would make sure that you have enough rent based on that 200,000. So like if it rents for $1,000 and your house is worth 200,000, I would question whether that's a good rental property. I would think, could I make more money selling that house and exchanging it into other rentals that have better cash flow? But if you have good cash flow and you want to turn it into a rental, talk to banks about refinancing it. If conventional banks won't do it, try to find local portfolio lenders. They might be able to do it, or some of those national lenders might be willing to finance it as well. All right, Michael asked, I bought the blueprint 2 or so months ago. Can I still fill out the form? Yes, Michael, send me an email. I will send you the form. It should actually be on the site now for all blueprint members. But you can always send me an email. I'll make sure you have it, mark@investformore.com. In your example, does your payment include insurance and taxes? I'm thinking you meant the cash flow example. Yes, it did. So the $850 a month did include insurance and taxes in that payment. Do you have to be an agent to access MLS? That's a tricky question because there are people who aren't agents who have access to MLS. That doesn't mean it's legal or right. So there are people, you can be an unlicensed assistant in some cases and have access to MLS, but you can't see houses, you can't show them to yourself, you can't write your own offers if you just have access and you don't have a license. Will the slides for this webinar be made available? There will be a replay available for this webinar that will be emailed to you when you're done. It'll be kind of based on YouTube. So you can go through YouTube and pause and play and stop and go through as much as you want on the webinar there. Do you know about the market in Canada? I know a little bit about Canada. I know it's really, really hard to cash flow there too because prices are so high. I do know some people do it kind of in the smaller towns, smaller areas. I know financing is completely different in Canada as well. So a lot of people from Canada are trying to invest in the US because of the better financing, because of the better cash flow. All right, Christopher asked, will this be available for playback? Yes, it will be emailed out to you. How many members in your private Facebook group, and are they nationwide, specifically California, Nevada? I would have to check. I think we have like 50 some members in the Facebook group, and they are all over the country. People are all over the country in that program. And I know we have quite a few in California and Nevada as well. Do you go into business structure of real estate business and accountants you need to use in your program? I do go through like the team structure, how to set up a team, how to build a team. And then of course, if you have other questions that you don't see answered in the blueprint, you can always email me and I'll tell you whatever I know. Justin, who is my team manager, handles all our marketing, handles a lot of different stuff. He is also available to answer questions on like technical stuff if I don't know it, because I'm not the tech person. I also hate accounting, so I always have someone else do all my accounting. So yeah, I'm happy to share all that. Do you use delayed financing to buy a property outright, fix it up, and then reappraise and pull out up to 75% of the appraised value, essentially turning it into a rental? I personally don't do that. I sort of do that, but for the most part, it's tougher for me to do it because I have so many mortgages, and my local portfolio lenders want me to wait 6 months or a year before I can refinance. So on my properties, most of the time I'm getting a loan to start with, and I won't refinance until a couple of years out. But that strategy is definitely available, especially if you have less than 10 mortgages, to make repairs, reappraise it, and take out as much money as you can. How best to determine vacancy rates for an area? The first thing I just do is Google vacancy rates in your area and see what pulls up. A lot of times you'll find property management companies or local real estate reports that show you what the rates are. Sometimes Zillow and some other real estate sites have them too, but I don't know how accurate they are. Really what you want to do is try and find some kind of local report HUD will do some vacancy rate reports, but their data is like a year or two old, I think. So it makes it tough. But really, I mean, local property managers, local real estate agents might be able to help you with vacancy rates as well. Do any Canadians belong to your program? Yes, I do have some Canadians in it. Like I said, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to buy rentals in Canada, but I think it's different. It's a little tougher just because the financing is different. But the same concepts of buying below market value, financing, getting cash flow are the same if you can find the right markets in Canada, or if you want to try to invest in the US from Canada, definitely help with that as well. There's no restrictions on buying houses. You know, if you're a Canadian citizen, the trick is finding financing, because most lenders will not finance foreigners, but some local lenders will. So there's one Canadian I did a podcast with, Anil Walia, who's bought 40 properties in Florida from Canada, financed almost all of them. So it's definitely possible. All right. Got time for a few more questions. We're getting here like an hour and 45 minutes already, so my voice is getting tired. But I am getting my real estate license soon. Since I will be starting out fresh to real estate, when do you think would be a good time to start investing? That's a really good question, because I think sometimes people overburden themselves with doing too many things at once. So if your main goal is to be an agent, I would focus on being a real estate agent first, building up that business, getting leads. There's a lot that goes into being an agent, saving money. And once you're established as an agent, then start thinking about buying rental properties, investing. I think people get into problems when they try and start out being an investor, an agent, a blogger, all these things at once. Like, I did not do everything at once. I did one thing at a time, built that up. Once I became established, then I started something else. So don't try and do everything at once. What is the cost of the mentoring program? Dana, it is, the list price on it is $997, but then the 35% off takes off, $350 off that. And any advice on finding an out-of-state agent? I can refer people to some agents I know, but really it's about contacting, different agents in the area, probably contacting a lot, seeing how fast they respond to your inquiries, whether it's a phone call or an email. The faster they respond, obviously, the better. If it takes them 2 days to return your call, that's a bad sign right away. People who have listings can be an advantage. If you go on Zillow and you see the people with the most listings, not always good, but sometimes it's good. Really, it's about trial and error, finding a really good agent. And there are some agents, depending on the area you want to invest in, that I could refer you to as well. All right, I think I've got time for one more question, if there's one out there. I think I just got through everything. All right, no more? I'll give it another 30 seconds and see if a question comes in. Oh, this might be it. All right, no more questions. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being on the webinar. I appreciate it. One came in. Okay. In Florida, to know homes, there might be, sometimes the question doesn't show up all the way until someone else answers. Oh, how did you pick where you're going in Florida to know homes where there might be below market value? Really, it was people I knew, different investors I knew in the state. I kept talking to people over and over again, talked to as many people as I could. Researched the markets myself, talked to real estate agents, and just talked to a lot of different people. And that's how I figured out different markets in Florida. All right, cool, guys. Thank you very much. Like I said, if you have questions, email me, mark@investformore.com. You can always reply to the emails you get from my site if you're signed up for my email list. If you reply to those emails, those go straight to me too. So thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. And hopefully I might be talking to a few of you soon. Take care. Oh, Victoria, if you buy today, it starts today. It starts right away. All right. Bye, everyone.